Your overall thought process on the career that Jay Wright had at Nova?
He's. I texted him a bunch yesterday. Um, he's one of my all-time favorites.
God, the NBA playoffs are great. They're just great. One of my favorite coaches, and I just got through talking to you about it. What I love so much about Coach Brown with the success that he had when he was at the college level and when he was in the pro level. Coach, my favorite player, in Allen Iverson. And I got a chance to meet Coach years ago through Tony Bruno. And I remember, man, that old Philly hard mentality. I saw it last night in Toronto, Coach. I appreciate you coming aboard. Thank you so much for doing this.
Did I get it right? Am I actually on?
You got it right, Coach.
Oh, good. Thank God.
Thank you so much. Coach, I want to start it out first before we get into the Sixers. Just your overall thought process on the career that Jay Wright had at Nova.
He's. I texted him a bunch yesterday. He's one of my all-time favorites. He cared about kids. He respected the game. He appreciated the people that have, helped him get where he got. I think the way that team played, the way the kids conducted themselves, says it all about him. I was up there when he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, and he didn't mention his name once. It was all about all the other people that helped him get there. So he saved my life. After I got fired, I was back in Philly, and for 2 years I went to Villanova's practice. I think I was at practice more than he was because he sometimes had to go recruit. But just to watch the way he interacted with his players and how much he cared about them and the staff and the loyalty they all had to one another, and they always mentioned Raleigh and the people before him. It was pretty special. I hate to see him leave, but I want to see him happy. And I'm not so sure that he won't be on TV, doing games because, he respects everybody that plays this game and coaches. So I think he'll be a great voice.
Coach, I can hear it in your voice, and I tell people this about athletes and coaches. Our first love and our true love is our sport that we give our soul to. And for me, it wasn't so much the money, the professional ranks, or what have you. It was just so much that I missed the game. And I loved the game of football, and I loved competing, and I loved to be coached. And I was coached by some of the best guys of all time. I can hear it in your voice. The game of basketball, when you're not around it, you miss it, right?
Oh yeah, I love smelling the gym. I respect the opportunity I had. I had a great high school coach and went to North Carolina and played for Dean Smith and Frank McGuire. And then I was fortunate enough to play on the Olympic team for Mr. Iba and John McClendon. And then as a pro in the ABA, I got to play for Al Bianchi, Alex Hannum, Babe McCarthy. So I would have been dumb if I didn't really learn from those people. But everything I've done in my life is because of the people that have touched my life. And, I got back to Memphis this year just because I wanted to give back. I wanted to share what I was taught. And it's something I feel very fortunate I was allowed to do at my age.
Coach, I had Coach Smith on years ago, and I asked him his success secret and the things that made him. And I wonder if you coached in that style, because I was telling people, you remind me so much of my college coach, Jimmy Johnson, that coach could coach a guy like Michael Irvin. You could coach a guy like Iverson, and yet you could coach a completely different personality. And I asked Coach Smith this, what was your secret? He goes, Dan, one of the things that I recruited were people that had my type of personality, because it made the transition a lot easier for me to communicate with my kids that I had the same type of temperament in the kids, and it was easier for me in a transition for me to communicate. You seem to be a little bit different, like my coach, where you could coach every personality. Am I right when I say that about Coach Smith?
I don't know. He, when they put in the dictionary what a coach is to be, they'll put Dean Smith's name there. He once told me when I came back from the Olympics and got to coach 2 years with Coach Smith. It was when we only had 3 coaches. So I was freshman coach and assistant varsity coach. And I remember he told me, if the kids know you care about them, you're going to always have a job. And I always try to remember that. I didn't always do it right. There's some people that I've coached in my life that I wish I could have done a better job, but it never was because I wasn't trying to do the right thing and do the things that I was taught to do. But he very rarely coached, went after talent first. He used to say, talent is a gift from God, character's a choice. So his thing was he wanted high character kids. And then if he had a high character kid with talent, then he had it all. And I think that's probably one of the big things. And then he wasn't afraid to coach you. Now I see so many coaches are afraid to actually teach kids and hold them accountable and tell them what they need to hear. Things have really changed now. If I went home, I lost my dad when I was young, and my brother, helped raise me and my uncles. If I ever went home from practice complaining about, something Coach Smith or Coach McGuire or my high school coach said to me, they would say, hey, the reason he's saying things to you is he cares. And kids don't understand that anymore. And that's troubling to me.
Coach, I'll tell you, I got to tell you the greatest Jimmy Johnson lesson of all time. I'm sitting there, he's on my ass doing nothing. And I finally went like this, Coach. I went like this. Why are you always on my ass? He looked at me and he went, Dan, where are you when I'm not? and I said, all of a sudden, you get a reality check right there. And he just went, where are you when I'm not? And I went, I kind of was like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I'm going back and forth there. I went, I got it. Okay, you're right. I understand that now. And you're right, Coach. Harder to connect with kids today, isn't it?
Well, if I talk too much, you can cut me off. But I only took over one winning team in the NBA, and that was Detroit. And I was lucky I followed Rick Carlisle, who was a hell of a coach. They had good values and stuff. But, I remember telling all my coaches when I went to a new situation, I said, the day we walk in that locker room after 2 practices, they'll know whether we can coach or not. And that's going to be important. And I said, the other thing is, after a couple of practices, they're going to know whether we can win with that coaching staff or not. And that was important. And then the third thing I told them, they'll know if you can make them better. If you can make them better, they're going to make more money. And that's going to be important. But I said, those 3 things don't really tell the whole story. The whole story is if they know you care about them and they trust you, then you got it. And I think that's the truth. You can't fool kids, to be honest. And again, when I was growing up, my mom wanted my brother and I to go to college. And she was hoping that maybe we'd be lucky and get a scholarship. But if not, she was going to put us in college. But when you look at kids now, a lot of the parents are hoping their kids are going to do well, so they're going to take care of them. And I don't know. That's pressure I don't think I can handle.
Absolutely, Coach. Coach, let me roll you over to the Sixers. You think this team here constructed the way it is now, Coach? They're up 3-0 on the Raptors. They're really doing a great job. They'll probably get more tested in the second round. You think this team has a true chance of getting to the NBA Finals and winning it?
Oh, yeah. People forget, Dan, if Kawhi Leonard doesn't make that crazy ass shot, they'd probably still have the same team and might have had a championship. So I think a lot of people, when I used to hear all the junk about Ben Simmons, which I didn't appreciate because I love the kid personally. But if he doesn't make that shot, that team's together. You don't know how many championships they might have won. But getting back to your point, um, I think Harden's really special. I wish he'd just focus on being special and not worrying about what other people think. Um, Embiid is as good as anybody in the league. Um, he can score. He creates double teams. He can pass out of a double team, and he's not afraid to take a big shot. Massey has just grown with every day. And then Harris, to me, is a very underrated player. So they have a lot of people and a lot of pieces that can, get them by. The only thing I worry a little bit about, I don't know how their depth is. But I look at the NBA, not a lot of teams have depth anymore. And usually their depth is a lot of young kids. So I think they have a chance. I don't look at any team in the league that scares me if I'm Doc Rivers. Now I'm going to respect every team, but there's not one team in the league that stands out to me that like the Lakers when they were great, like the Spurs when they were great. So when you tell me what teams can win, there's a lot of teams can win, but I don't think there's any that's any more talented than the Sixers.
I had Rick Barry on yesterday with me, and I threw this question. I want to throw this off you too, Coach. The one thing with reserves, though, everyone knows they play better at home than they do when they're on the road. And with the Sixer group, there's not a lot of depth when it comes to perimeter shooting. And when they sent Curry to the Nets, that was kind of like their other dude that could give them offense from the outside. And, Coach, the only thing I'm concerned about with the Sixers is maybe what you're echoing here is that you get an up and down performance sometimes because you don't really know if you're relying on reserves to come off the bench and give you perimeter shooting and perimeter offense. Harden can't just be an assist guy. He's got to go out. Now, 18 points last night. He ended up fouling out in the game. I think he had like 10 boards or such. But again, he needs to be James Harden for them to win it. Or can he be James Harden last night and the Sixers win it?
Well, you got my kid Shake Milton on the team, so he can make a big shot. When I coached him, I used to tell him every time you shoot, think you're shooting into a bathtub. So, but, everybody says you need three guys that are great. And, I think a lot of people come down on Harris, but Harris plays both ends of the court pretty well, and he can make a shot. You got Embiid that can make a shot and create shots for others. But I think it's, they traded for Harden, and they traded for him to win the championship, and he's capable of doing it. He's a capable rebounder, which a lot of people don't realize. He's really unselfish because he's had to sacrifice so much to fit in to playing with Embiid. But I think if you're going to win, when you have Harden and Embiid, you got a hell of a chance.
Two last questions for you here, Coach. Your thoughts on Doc Rivers as a coach of the Sixers?
Oh, he's a great coach. I was lucky enough. I got to coach Doc when I was with the Clippers, and I was dumb. We traded him, but he's a really, really good guy. Players respect him. He gives you great confidence when you play, which I think is really important, especially when you get into, playoffs. And then the other thing, he utilizes the people that sit next to him. You can't do this alone. When I was coaching, it started out Doug Moe and myself. That was like frickin' frack. We had no chance. Now I look at all these staffs, and they got 20 guys that are coaching. But Doc will utilize the people he has sitting next to him. But at the end of the day, he gives you great confidence when you play. And I think that's really important when you're playing in these series, that games are so vital and possessions mean a lot.
Finally here, Coach. Last night I thought I was watching 90s basketball the way the Celtics were D'ing up on KD and Kyrie. I couldn't believe, one, the refs had allowed it to go the way they did. But, Coach, in all the years that KD's been in the league, I've never seen him defended the way that they defended him last night. And they did everything. They not only doubled him, they doubled the lane on him. Kyrie was almost a non-factor in that game. Was that more of a shocker in that than the loss last night and how they defended Kevin Durant?
Well, I watched the game, and it's the most physical game I saw. They could have called a foul on every play when Kevin had the ball. I didn't like it. I like the game being physical. I don't like the shot selections that I see, but I like some consistency in how you ref. Jerry West years ago said the referees should call, the game where you had advantage or disadvantage. And if there ever was a disadvantage, you call a foul. And I think last night, the way they hand checked him, the way they hold him, the way he couldn't move without the ball, I thought it was excessive. But again, you got to learn to deal with it. You got to get other people involved. You got to get more ball movement, more man movement. And I didn't see much adjustments on that, New Jersey's part in terms of getting him and Kyrie the ball where they could see when the double team was coming. The only time I ever saw them do anything when they short rolled with Brown and hit him right in the middle, and he could make a play for somebody else. And I'm saying, do that every time until Boston has to adjust, and maybe the game will get easier. But you're right, Dan. That was as physical as any game I've seen, and I'm anxious to see Game 3.
Me too. And it's been an honor to have you on, Coach. I mean, you're one of my favorite coaches because you won at Kansas. You won at every single level that you ever coach. And to me, my favorite player you ever coached is Allen Iverson because it shows me that a guy could get the most out of a player like myself. My coach used to say this, Coach, you were a handful, Sileo, but we won national championships. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I always loved that. And we're best friends to this day. And I know that you're friends with all your players to this day. And I want to thank you so much for doing this for me. Hope we can do it again.
Well, last thing, Dan, Allen had to face what Durant and Kyrie faced every single night. You think about that. When he was playing, there was a shot blocker on every team, and sometimes two. There was physicality all the way up the court, and he's not the biggest guy in the world. And not every referee loved this guy. And I think if he played with the rules now, he'd probably average 50.
Wow. Who do you think's better, Kyrie Irving or Allen Iverson?
I don't like to compare. I love them both. I'm partial to my guys, but I'll pay to see Kyrie play.
Me too.
I didn't have to pay to see Allen play, which was fun. But the biggest thing is he had to put up with so much, and I think sometimes, I go around, people have to Google me up, Dan, to know who the hell I am.
I don't think so.
But most of the kids, when they see me, they say, you coached Allen, and they still do it today. It shows you what an impact he had on so many people.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, you're a legend, and I know this, and I know a lot of people know that. And I hope we could do this again, Coach. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. Larry Brown, former Sixers head coach, former North Carolina guy. Absolutely incredible, man. Really, really cool, man. He laughed. What a legend, man. Hey, I think he just dropped the mic. Is that what he did, Xander? He dropped the mic? Hey, Dan Sileo here from Morgan & Morgan, where the fee is free. That means this, my friends, okay? They don't get paid unless you get your fair compensation. If you're hurt on the job or you're injured on the job, choosing a lawyer has to be one of the most important things that you could possibly do when finding that right team to get you the compensation that you possibly can, okay? One thing's for sure, for the people, it's not a slogan. It's what they do, and it's who they are. Do you know over the last 30 years, they've got $13 billion in compensation for their clients? You heard me right. $13 billion over the last 30 years. 800 attorneys in offices in Philadelphia, Florida, New York, across the country. They are the biggest firm in the country. Size matters when you're battling some of these law firms and they're trying to intimidate their clients. You cannot do that with Morgan & Morgan because they fight for you to get the fair compensation you so deserve. The call is free. The consultation is free. Call them at 800-512-1600. That's 800-512-1600. And when you call Morgan & Morgan, you tell them Big Sil sent you.
When choosing a lawyer for your injury case, you may ask, does the size of the law firm matter? Well, of course it does. The insurance company, they're huge with unlimited resources. And whether your case is big or small, they're built to bully you out of the money you're owed. But here's the good news. We're big too, the biggest actually. And we're built to fight to make them pay for all that was taken from you. Size is our strength. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. ForThePeople.com.